During the late 19th century, many Polish immigrants fleeing oppression came to Detroit. In 1886, a group of them organized a school that was the beginning of Sweetest Heart of Mary Parish. On December 8, 1888, the Reverend Dominic Koloshinsky, former pastor and builder of neighboring St. Alberta's Church, became their pastor without Episcopal approval. Under his leadership, construction of the late Victorian Gothic Church began in July 1890. On February 18, 1894, the parish officially became part of the Diocese of Detroit. The church windows, made by the Detroit Glass Works, won prizes at the 1893 Chicago Columbian Exposition. Its organs is one of the oldest Austin organs in existence, and its 217-foot spires house 3 large bells that are named St. Mary, St. Joseph, and St. Barbara. My personal family ties to the church began in 1888, with my maternal grandmother making her first communion, and later in 1894 and 1904, the marriage of both my paternal and maternal grandparents. This was followed by my mother, father, aunts, and uncles, all attending Sweetest Heart of Mary School. Like many of the immigrants of the era, they became the workers that supplied the might and the experience at the foundries, the automobile plants, and the manufacturing plants in the area. In the community, they were the storekeepers, the grocers, the bakers, and the restaurant owners. They shopped at the local markets, and they celebrated their cultural heritage and religion. They were also among the many who answered the call to duty, joining the American Armed Forces. And in the end, they would bury their dead with honor and dignity. In 1889, the original property was purchased from the Norris family and was located in northeast Wayne County, Michigan, in an area that was known as Norris in Hamtramck Township. It was on the south side of Boulevard Street, later known as Davison, and 1/4 mile west of Mount Elliott Road, and adjacent to the already established East Bethlehem Lutheran Cemetery. In 1902, a parishioner, Joseph Sahevich, on behalf of the Cemetery Association, acquired another 7 acres to the south from Karl Mass, who was a member of the East Bethlehem Lutheran Church. In 1910, a third property on the south side of Norris Ditch Road, later known as McNichols Road, was also acquired. About 1916, the Hamtramck area around the cemetery was being annexed by the city of Detroit. Although the south plot was still being developed, there were a total of 42 burials in between 1917 and 1939. In 1938, women of the adjacent neighborhood association on Syracuse Street began protesting the required fencing of the cemetery. A few days later, a riot broke out. The now adjacent Mound Road was developed during 1940 and 1942 to provide a bus route for Detroiters going to work at the many new defense plants along the roadway up to 14 Mile Road. Some of the burials were too close to the planned roadway and had to be relocated within the cemetery. Over the years, the part of the cemetery that was north of McNichols Road became known as the Old Section, and the portion that was south of McNichols Road became known as the New Section. You can see the deterioration of the headstones caused by the elements of nature and also the ground settling over a 123-year period in the older sections of the cemetery. Many of the headstones had photos attached to them, many of which also deteriorated or were defaced by vandals over many years. Fortunately, Bill Gorski, a longtime member of the society, had the foresight to take photos during the 1980s. Unfortunately, some of those are no longer viewable as well. The difficulty of searching for burials at the cemetery became the catalyst for this project. What we initially learned is that flooding at the church destroyed many of the church records from the earlier years, and later a fire at the cemetery destroyed about another 50 years worth of burial records. In 1991, Jan Zaleski, past president of the Polish Genealogy Society, created the Cemetery Project with a simple mission statement: research, record, and publish a list of burials at the cemetery. Several groups of volunteers were gathered over the next few years and began walking the grounds, transcribing the inscriptions from the headstones, identifying the location by a count of headstones from the beginning of the row. The project stalled for a few years until 1996, when a computerized database was created to accept the handwritten transcribed data. A problem occurred while trying to enter the various methods that were previously being used to identify the locations, and so the cemetery sections were assigned new names as the North, Center, and South plots based upon their location. All of the sections in the North plot began with the letter N, all of the sections in the Center plot began with the letter C, and all the sections in the South plot began with the letter S. New mapping was also created. In 1997, the alpha version of the database was released, and later new section markers were manufactured by U.S. Equipment Company and Grippy Machine Company. The posts were donated by the Polish Genealogy Society and were later installed in the various sections. The remaining 70% of headstones in the North and Center plots were reviewed and transcribed between 1997 and 2002 and then entered into the database. The first publication of the North and Center database was released in 2002. One binder was assigned to the Polish Genealogy Society of Michigan, and the other was assigned to Sweetest Heart of Mary Church. Please view Part 2 for the continuation of this video.